Hey future lawyers, AIB 2024 is just around the corner and we know how crucial case laws are for cracking the exam. In today's video, we are going over some of the most important case laws you need to know to ace the AIB on December 22nd. Stay tuned and let's dive in because with Unidoo we make laws simpler
Video,
and
we are going to
smarter.
discuss the name of the case law and what the case law is about. First of all, we have the case of triple talaq. The name of the case is Saira Banu versus Union of India. In this case, what happened was that the custom of triple talaq was challenged, and the Supreme Court ultimately declared the custom to be unconstitutional. And it stated that it is violative of women's fundamental right given by the Constitution of India. So the next case we have is Shah Banu Begum versus Muhammad. This case was filed by Shah Banu Begum, who had filed for maintenance under Section 125 of the CRPC. In this case, it was ultimately held by the Supreme Court that a divorced Muslim woman is also entitled to get financial support from her husband under Section 125 of CRPC. The third case we have is Mohori Bibi versus Dharmodhar Ghosh. In this case, the Privy Council held that a minor cannot make a valid contract. The next case we have is Carlyle versus Carbolic Smoke Company. In this case, it was held that if a company makes a promise in an advertisement and someone follows that promise and acts upon it, then the company is legally required to honor that promise given by that company in its advertisement. The next case we have is Chinnaya versus Ramaya. This case propounded the doctrine of privity of consideration. In this case, it was held that a minor cannot be forced into a legal contract, but if they are given a gift, they can accept it and it is still considered to be valid. The sixth case we have is Harley versus Baxendale. In this case, it was decided that when someone breaches a contract, they can only be asked to pay for the losses that were predictable at the time of making the contract. This is commonly known as the doctrine of unliquidated damages. The next few cases you must have heard about these when you were studying in your law school. The first off, we have the Gloucester Grammar School case. This case is known for establishing the principle of damnum sine injuria, which means no claim arises when there is a damage without violation of any legal right. In this case, it was held that harm or loss caused without violation of any legal right does not lead to a legal claim. Moving on, the next case is Ashby versus Fight. This case is known for establishing the principle of ubi jus ibi remedium, which means when there is a right, there is a remedy. Next, we have Rylance versus Fletcher. This is known for establishing the doctrine of strict liability. In this case, it was held that a person is strictly liable for damages caused by dangerous things that they have kept on their property, even if they were not at fault when such dangerous thing was set loose. Next, we have MC Mehta, the case of MC Mehta, which is regarding the Bhopal gas tragedy. In this case, the company involved in the Bhopal gas tragedy was held absolutely liable for the injuries caused by the gas leak in Bhopal. This case is commonly known for the establishment of the doctrine of absolute liability, which is another form of the doctrine of strict liability. However, here the wrongdoer is held to be absolutely liable. Next, we have Mrs. Rupan Deol Bajaj versus KP Grill. This case dealt with the outrage of a woman's modesty, where the court held that even a slight act of sexual harassment can violate a woman's dignity and modesty. The next case we have is Krishna Gopal versus State of Madhya Pradesh. This case addressed the need for pollution control in India. Under this case, the Supreme Court ordered strict measures to be taken to prevent environmental damage and protect public health, more specifically to control the pollution caused in the air and noise pollution. Next, we have the case of Menka Gandhi, which is related to passport. This case expanded the scope of Article 21 by ruling that the right to personal liberty includes the right of traveling abroad, and any restriction on it must be reasonable, just, and follow due process of law.
So the next case we have is the Mandal Commission case. It's Indira Shawnee's case. In this case, the Supreme Court upheld the Mandal Commission's recommendation to reserve 27% of government jobs for OBCs, but also ruled that the total reservation cannot exceed 50%, ensuring fairness in public employment. So the next case we have is the judges transfer case, SP Gupta versus Union of India. In this case, it was held that the government can transfer judges, but it must consult the judiciary to keep it independent. The next case we have is right to livelihood as an integral part of the right to life under Article 21. Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation. In this case, it was held that the right to livelihood is a fundamental right under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and evicting people from their homes without proper notice and procedure is unconstitutional. The next case we have here is the Public Trust Doctrine case, which is MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath. In this case expanded public interest litigation, allowing citizens to approach the court for environmental and public welfare issues, even if they weren't directly affected. The next case is a very important case, which is also known as the sexual harassment at workplace case, Vaisakha versus State of Rajasthan. This case established guidelines to prevent sexual harassment at the workplace in India. These guidelines were later implemented in the Prevention of Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act 2013, which is the year 2013. Do remember this. The next case is the bail to a person, Kashmira Singh versus State of Punjab. This case ruled that bail should be granted unless there are strong reasons to refuse it. The next case is Custodial Violence, DK Basu versus State of Bengal. This case highlighted the issue of custodial violence, with the Supreme Court setting guidelines to prevent torture and ensure the protection of a person's rights during police custody. So the next case we have is the handcuff case. It's Prem Shankar Shukla versus Delhi. This case ruled that handcuffing a person is a violation of their fundamental rights unless there are specific reasons for it, such as a threat of escape or violence. The next case is the habeas corpus case, ADM Jabalpur versus Sivkan Shukla. In this case, the Supreme Court upheld the suspension of fundamental rights during national emergency, more specifically, Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. The next case we have is the doctrine of prospective overruling, Golaknath versus State of Punjab. In this case, the Supreme Court introduced the concept of prospective overruling, restricting the retrospective application of judgments. The next case we have is the cybercrime case. It's Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. This case struck down Section 66A of the Information Technology Act, which criminalized offensive or online content, ruling it unconstitutional as it violated the right to freedom of speech under Article 19(1)A of the Indian Constitution. The next case we have is the unlawful detention. It's Rudul Shah versus State of Bihar. And the next case we have is the curative petition case. It's Rupa Huda versus Ashok Huda. This case established that a curative petition can be filed after a Supreme Court judgment if there is a need to correct the legal mistake or prevent injustice, but it is only allowed in exceptional cases.
Next up, we have the case of M. Karunanidhi versus Union of India. This is an important case law as it deals with the doctrine of repugnancy. Under this case, the Supreme Court ruled that if a state law contradicts with the central law, the central law will prevail as per the mandate of Article 254 of the Constitution, which is Article 244 54. Next, we have Keshavan Madhava versus State of Bombay. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that all laws made before the Constitution of India came into effect can stay valid unless they have been repealed specifically. And the Constitution of India does not apply to past action, that is, it does not have any retrospective effect. This is known as the doctrine of pre-constitutional validity. Next, we have the case of Anwar Bibi versus P.K. Bashir. This is an important case law as it was the first time electronic evidence was made admissible in a court of law. In this case, the Supreme Court allowed electronic evidence to be admitted in legal procedures in courts of law if the filing process of those electronic evidences complied with the laws of the land. Next, we have Jai Singh versus State of Haryana. In this case, the Supreme Court ruled that a writ of mandamus can be issued to force the state authorities to perform its legal obligations. But not the least, we have the case of State of Punjab versus Jagjit Singh. In this case, the Supreme Court held that people doing the same work should get the same pay, ensuring equal pay for equal work as provided by the Constitution of India.